Hello and welcome to the Big G Video Podcast. Now this episode is called Final Cut Pro on the iPad, Good, Bad and Missing. Now if you're watching this on YouTube, I urge you not to turn away just because this is a podcast, because I'm going to be giving a really succinct first impressions of Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Now this audio description is going to be just as good as watching a video. You don't need to watch a video to understand what's good about Final Cut Pro on the iPad, what's bad about it and what's missing. You just need to listen to me. So please don't just turn away because you thought it was a video and now you've realized it's an audio episode on YouTube. So first of all, I'm a Final Cut Pro user on a Mac M1, and I've also been using iPad for video editing for a very long time. And I used pads for video editing way before I got a Mac, and I've done an awful lot of videos on iPads, or edited a lot of videos on iPads. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about. Let's go over the basics. You already know this probably. You need an M1 or an M2 iPad to run Final Cut Pro on the iPad. It's a subscription of $5 or £5 per month, or $50 or £50 per year. It is quite small in its size though. It only takes up 750 megabytes, whereas I've also got DaVinci Resolve on the iPad, and that's getting on for 3 gigabytes. I think it's 2.7 gigabytes. So I've made 2 projects with Final Cut Pro on the iPad already, and from now on I'm just going to call it Final Cut Pro. It's a given that I'm talking about the iPad version. So I've made 2 projects. One was a short for YouTube and one was another YouTube video which was a standard review. So let's talk about what's good about it. First of all, I think the live drawing's excellent, and I just wish I had better handwriting for live drawing. It's so quick just to draw on top of something and have it animate in. That's the sort of doodly and scribble thing I've been looking for years. It's excellent. It's really, really good. I don't know if it will become a bit oversaturated or if people get fed up with it, and certainly I've got to really improve my handwriting for when I'm using this, but I think it's excellent. And the jog reel is really excellent. You can go through your clips frame by frame or just really quickly. Jog reel is excellent and it's so intuitive to use. You get included soundtracks which are really good, and they're dynamic soundtracks, so you can have them last for as long as your video is going to be. And with Final Cut Pro on the Mac, that was never included. It was included with things like iMovie. iMovie is a whole different beast, and one day I think I'm going to do an episode all about different editors and who they're for. But for now, let's just say it's really nice to see soundtracks. There aren't that many of them, but they look pretty good. So objects, texts and backgrounds are much better than they were on Final Cut, and I'm saying were because the Mac version of Final Cut Pro is getting updated as well, and I suspect that's also going to have these new additions in. So while it's good that it's there on the iPad, don't forget if you're a Mac owner, it's probably going to come to the Mac as well. The touch interface works really well, it's easy to use, and it's just obvious. Things are intuitive, and I think it's slightly quicker to do it via touch, believe it or not. And certainly the way I work is I do a rough edit and then I go in and tidy things up. I find doing a rough edit is much quicker on the iPad than on the Mac. And one of the bonuses is you can start on your iPad and you can move it, including the media, to your Mac. I could do a rough edit on the iPad and then I could transfer it to the Mac to just finish off, because there are some things that it does have on the Mac. So I don't predominantly, I only really make YouTube videos and family videos. So this would be excellent for both. It's suitable for making, it's very suitable for making videos for YouTube. You could do all your YouTube stuff on it. And don't forget, I'd said that I did editing on an iPad. I used to use LumaFusion, and I used to do so many videos on LumaFusion on my iPad. And I started to get fed up with LumaFusion because it had a few bugs and the titles weren't very good. So it would occasionally crash. It would occasionally just drop and you had to do things again. Now I'm not seeing any of that on Final Cut Pro for the iPad. Let's talk about the bad things. Well, it's a subscription model. Yeah, that's bad. No one likes a subscription when you can buy it outright. And you can't start projects on your Mac and finish them on the iPad. Now, I want to talk about and say really that this is the day one edition, so it's bound to get better as well. I mean, I'm already quite impressed with it, but it's bound to get better. some of these things are going to get ironed out as well. Now, something I quite like to do is, because I review products that are generally dark colours, so they might be matte black or things like that, I will always increase the shadows so that you can see what I'm talking about. And that's really easy on the Mac. You just go over to, it's in the inspector, I can't remember what it's called, but you basically just lift the shadows, easy. But on the iPad version, you have to add an effect to your video clip, and then you have to go in and change your shadows or your colour. So it's just another step. It's not the end of the world, but it would be nice if it was in the inspector like it is before. And the other thing is, you're going to be working on media that's either in your files browser or in your photos, most likely photos. And when you work on them in Final Cut Pro, they get copied over, so you are storing things twice. So you will run out of storage. Now my iPad is 128 gigabytes, but I don't have actually that much storage left in it. So I'm going to have to do some editing, and then once the video is made, get rid of the stuff or stick it into my iCloud and not have it on the device, but I'm happy with that. That's what I have to do on my Mac anyway. So let's talk about what's missing. So compound clips, there's no way to make a compound clip, which was unfortunate because I use compound clips quite a lot. I quite like animating with transforms, so setting keyframes and changing the transform so we get a zoom in or a pan out or whatever. I don't think you can do it, and I might be wrong because I might not be that good, or by the time this episode comes out there may have been an update that's changed it, but I can't see a way to do transforms. I also quite often blur things out, and on the Mac you can track the blur effect or any other effect, but you can't do that on the iPad version, so I can't seem to do any tracking. I can still put in blurs and I can put masks, but I just can't do tracking. You can't detach audio from a video clip. So quite often I will keep the video clip the same, but I'll detach the audio because I'll edit the audio and cut it down. You can't do that. I hope that comes in an update because I do that all the time. So let's talk about overall. I think, and I've used every conceivable D-pad video editor. I've used DaVinci Resolve, still use LumaFusion, I've used Adobe Rush, I've tried out CuteCut, etc. I've tried them all. iMovie, I don't really think iMovie is an iPad app because it's really the iPhone version. I've tried them all, and this is easily the best one. A lot of people are going to argue that DaVinci Resolve might be better. I much prefer Final Cut Pro than DaVinci Resolve, even though DaVinci Resolve is free, the free version. And again, I'm going to say this is early days, so it will get better still, I think. So it's by far the best video editing app on the iPad. It's very, very close to what you get on the Mac as well. So here's the question that maybe people have been waiting for. Should you get it? Well, if you've got a suitable iPad, and I say suitable because it has to be quite a high-tech one for it to run, then yes, if you've already got an iPad, get it. If you've got a Mac with Final Cut Pro, I wouldn't be so sure. You'd have to have a use case of where you're using an iPad a lot, because you'd have to buy the iPad, you would have to then take out a subscription. So is it worth getting if you've got a Mac because you already have Final Cut Pro? I don't know that it is, if I'm honest with you. And should you go and buy an iPad and then subscribe to Final Cut Pro just to use it? Probably not. That's quite an expensive commitment, and for not much more than an iPad you could get a MacBook Air that would be M1 or M2. So I think your money's probably better spent on getting a MacBook. I happen to have both, and I'm not sure if that's the right answer, but that's the answer I have. So another £50 a year I'm prepared to pay to use it. So though that was my review, it was quite short and sweet, but I hope it gave you an idea. And I know already it's a lot quicker than watching some of the YouTube videos out there. Don't forget, you can watch normal videos on my YouTube channel. I've got the podcast now on my YouTube channel, or you can listen to it on other podcast providers. But thank you so much, and goodbye.